Hello. Today I decided I wanted to host a Let's Talk About It session. And my motivation is that it is the end of the year. We're at December 23rd, which is just a couple of days before Christmas. It's a couple of days before um, Kwanzaa. I think we're in the season of Hanukkah. I saw a sign for Diwali. There's all kinds of holidays that are happening. In the middle of that, there's also, or at the end of that, there's also end of the year things. And I know for me that this is a time when all kinds of feelings bubble up around, excuse me, grief and loss. This is the time when I lost my husband when he died. The beginning of December is when we lost the first time I had a significant loss when a family friend died as a result of injuries he sustained in a car accident. This is around the time when my um, uh, what do you why am I blanking on his name, his title, when my godfather died. He died, I think, like right after Thanksgiving, before December. And so there's all kinds of deaths surrounding this. And so I know this can be a time where you could feel overwhelmed. And so I thought, I'm going to create a space where we could talk about it, where you can ask questions. We can talk through some obstacles and some solutions and really have space to feel and experience. And so I'm just going to take a few minutes to talk a little bit about like what is happening for us right now, like what's the problem, like why do we feel so overwhelmed right now. um, Also, what are some of the kind of factors that kind of support those feelings, right? I also want to talk about what are potential solutions, and what process I take my clients through when I'm coaching them. And then lastly, I want to talk about, what to do from this day forward, like how to continue to move forward. And I have all of that for you. And we'll see how much I can get into a short amount of time. Um, so if you have questions or comments, you can always put them in the chat and I'll get to them. Um, so I'm excited to be here. Um, I am Kim Fuller. I am a licensed marriage and family therapist and a grief coach. I have been in the business for lots of years and um, I'm here to serve. One of the things that is exciting about being a life coach is the fact that I can see the growth of my clients pretty quickly, right? Going from overwhelmed and struggling and feeling so victimized by life experiences to taking control, making informed and empowered decisions and moving in a different direction in their life in a very short amount of time. It's so exciting to see that. And all it takes is, really understanding how and why, your mind is going a certain kind of way and allowing your mind to move in a different direction. And so I thought, let's talk about it. Ooh, someone's here. Hi, Coach Felicia. I'm Kim Fuller. Nice to see you in person.
Hello, nice to see you too.
Yes, welcome. I'm just getting started. And if anything comes up that you want to ask a question, please feel free to, unmute. Because I was really designed this to kind of be a more conversational, although of course I'm going to say a lot because I'm here to say a lot. Um, and one of the things that I was talking about was how this time of the year is so challenging. And why is it so challenging? I know that this is the anniversary of the death of my husband. And there was a time when I couldn't say that out loud. There was a time when, the calendar is just looming. And what are the things that I did in order to kind of move myself along, where I can say it without the heavy emotional baggage, right? One of the things I know for sure is that when someone dies, the way in which we believe and talk about it is often about ourselves first, right? This happened to me, and um, he left me. And, there's always these, negative things about being the victim. And it takes a little bit of time because I think we all deserve to be in that realm for a while, however long it takes. But then at some point, you're like, you know what? I don't want to feel this anymore. I want to stop seeing, you know, grief or loss or life circumstances as holding me back or as obstacles. And once you get to that place, here we are to help you. Because now you're like, what can I put in place so that I can move forward? And so that's kind of like the problem is how do you now get to the place where you can put things in place so you can move forward, where you can go from, oh my God, this is just the worst thing ever, and I'm never going to get out of it, to, you know what, I'm ready to start a new job, start a new relationship, um, start weightlifting, whatever it is, so that you can move into the next realm. And I'm all into weightlifting. I don't know if I've ever shared that with you. I so by trade, I'm a licensed marriage and family therapist in the state of California. And I am a life coach by choice. I love it. I enjoy it. I like to see clients go from, like I said, woe is me, life is horrible, to empowered decisions and um, making changes in their life. I've seen everything from, I don't know what to do with life, to went to grad school and now is, a professor at a top university just because something little in their life changed. And so one of the things that I did recently is I got into this years ago. One of my friends sent me a link and said, hey, join this with me. And it was called Beachbody. And so she was a Beachbody coach, and she's trying to get all of people to join. I think it was some kind of a pyramid hierarchy kind of thing, where the more people you got, the more money you made, kind of thing. And I bought the supplements, and I don't know how many years ago. We're going to say that was like 8, 9, many years ago. And I got all into it, and I did 21-day fix, and I loved it. Didn't really like the products, so I just did the workouts. And that back then they sent it to you on DVD. And then life has happened, and I still am a member of Beachbody. Now I think it's called Body. They just call it Body. And right now I'm doing one that's called Lava. And so the trainer is really into yoga, ballet. She's not really into weights. The most amount of weight she would use is 2 pounds. And so Lava is all about kind of connecting yoga with the kind of what do they call that? Like vinyasa flow. And oh, it is intense. And so I think I'm on day 1 of week 3. But last week she had us do chair pose. Is it no? Yeah, chair pose, but you had one leg kind of folded over. So you had one leg on the ground. You had your leg kind of crossed over, almost like half Indian style. Oh, that's inappropriate. We don't say that anymore. Crisscross. And your arms are up above your head. And she's telling us to breathe through it. And of course, I fall out, I fall out, I fall out. And she's talking about that's part of the process. You're supposed to find where your toes and your ankles and your knees and your hips and your glutes and all that kind of connect inwardly so that you can balance in this pose. And that for some reason that really hit me, that concept of balance. And that in order for me to be in that pose, I had to, resist the urge to put my other foot down. If I did, that's fine, but just sink into it and think about, like, my toes are part of the process. Even my shoulders are part of the process. My breathing is part of, this idea of stability. And so I eventually was able to hold it for a few moments, but that really reminded me that balance is not always about having, both feet on the ground. That balance is about doing it with whatever it is that you have at the moment. And that we have a lot more strength and we have a lot more abilities than we allow ourselves, if we're in victim mode, to notice all of the other resources that we have at our disposal. And then if we're able to utilize some of those resources, then we could do tree pose with one, or chair with one leg. And so that was one of the things that really inspired me recently, was just thinking through these poses a little bit differently, right? There's always a metaphor connected, right? And that's one of them that I really appreciated. So yes, questions or comments? Who are you?
Um,
Why are you here? I love it.
oh yeah, I just seen your thing and I was like, oh, I want to join and see what this is all about. I love that metaphor. I even love the fact that it's like you fall out sometimes and you got to get back in and just like keep like that steady calm and like you said, everything's like interconnected. And when you finally understand that when you utilize everything and you align it, that you can stay on that one foot and you are okay on that one foot. So I absolutely love that metaphor. That was fantastic.
Oh, good. Oh, good. Oh, good. Yes. And who are you? Tell me about
Um,
you.
so I am I'm also a life coach. I work with mind body connection within weight
Oh,
loss in that realm.
oh,
Um, I had struggled before with um working out and kind of working towards a goal with a hatred for my body. And so I'm trying to get women that align with loving themselves inward and then working towards the outward journey. And yeah, I was just excited to see that you are on today. And I was like, let me pop in here and see what
I
she's all
love
about.
it. I love it. I was just working, so I still do therapy with clients as I transition into being a full-time coach. And even today, I had several clients this morning, and one of them, we talked a lot about um, uh, self-love
Hmm.
and the choices that you make when you don't love yourself
Yeah.
and the beliefs that you have about the world, right? You become a victim to the world when you don't love yourself and you don't believe in your own worth. And I was asking the question, how would you know if your self-worth was higher? Because she put it at a 2 and she'd like to be a 10 or something like that. How would you know if your self-worth was growing?
Yeah.
And it's interesting because that's the number one thing that I do in my coaching is help with awareness, right? Put it on some kind of a scale, figure out a way to measure it, figure out a way to
Yeah.
quantify it. And so she quantified it at right now, it's about a 2.5. And she was like, one of the things that I would know that I made progress was because I would go to the store and try on clothes and not cry, right?
Hmm.
I wouldn't like melt down. I would, and so I said, okay, and we came up with a lot of different ways she would know that she was making progress, even down to, living in a multi-level um, home and being able to run up the steps,
Oh yeah.
right? And get to the top, and your recovery time is not 12 minutes. Now your recovery time is only like 2.5, right? And finding different ways to measure progress and process. But first, step one is always you have to be aware. And I
Hmm.
think that taking time to become more acutely aware of what it is that the problem is, to figuring out what it is, your potential goal. And so I like that, there's a synchronicity that's happening right now with us in terms
Yeah.
of me having that conversation, even though I don't spend a lot of time on, the kind of that kind of physical wellness. It comes up, right? In regardless of when you're working with people. Um, that made me think of another thing. When you get to problem identification, um, one day I have a teenage daughter, and I take her to school a couple of times a week. And well, now I used to take her to school every day. Now I don't, and I'll tell you why. And so this particular day, we go out to start the car, and it goes click, right? It's not starting. And I'm like, oh my gosh, the car's not starting. What am I going to do? And I ask people this usually, just in general. I'm like, okay, so I went out to start my car. I was about to take my kid to school. What do I do? And people say, oh, you should call AAA and you should call maybe call your husband and find out what's wrong and all kinds of things. Maybe ask the neighbor. And I said, oh, that's interesting. I said, because you're solving for my car not working. But that's not really the problem. The problem is, how do I get my kid to school?
Yeah.
Right? And so that's usually what happens, right? You know how we got her to school? We walked a couple of blocks to the bus stop. She took the bus to school, one bus.
Yeah.
That's why I don't take her as often anymore, right? Because we figured out there's only one bus. Ding.
Yeah.
But what we typically do, right, is we solve for the wrong problem. Like going to get my car fixed, one, wouldn't have gotten her to school in that moment,
Hmm.
but two, wasn't really solving for like a bigger problem. And so that's another thing I think is important when we come to awareness. You can
Yeah.
imagine, huh?
Yeah.
Yep. And so that's my first step, is always around awareness and figuring out and identifying the real problem that's happening so you can come to a really clear solution. My second step is, because I'm really about grief and loss, is being okay with feeling your feelings. And
That was a
um,
big one.
a lot of times we do whatever we can to numb or hide or avoid or distract from just feeling. And I know from personal experience that that comes from the idea that you don't want to always be a hot mess walking around, emotional wreck, and thinking that's going to last forever. You're always going to be like that if you give into it. And no, none of those
Yeah.
are true, right? Um, and so one of the things that I did was, at the time when I was at the lowest amount or highest amount of grief, is I had a commute. I'm in LA County, and I used to commute to work back then, a little over an hour on a good day. And so that was my time. I gave myself that time to scream and cry and yell and listen to sad songs or whatever it was. And then, of course, I'd have to sit in the parking garage for a little bit to compose myself, but then I can go in and just be Kim. At the time, I was a director of a mental health clinic, so I needed to kind of be.
Yeah.
And then on the way home, sometimes the day's heavy, and I'd need to kind of release, and I'd use that hour and so, usually hour and a half to get home so that I could be present for the family. And so part of my healing was to give myself specific time where I allowed myself to just feel the feels.
Yeah.
And that really helped in my grieving process.
I agree with that. I haven't had, I mean, I've had people that I've lost. My condolences to you. I've never had anything that close except my animal. And that
Mhm.
was definitely really hard. And I did the
Yes.
same thing, just like let myself like be a mess and for however long it took. And I think that that's really important because I think, like you said, we push it down or we try to compose and just like put on this front, but then it just like builds up within us and it becomes more intense when we finally do, and it will always come out. The energy's always got to go
Always.
somewhere. And so
Yes.
and like you said too, you think it's going to last really long, but when you actually let yourself feel the feelings and go through the motions and process it, it actually dissipates faster than if you would just continuously like keep it down and hold it back.
Right. Right. I think that's, yeah. I remember, so one of the trainings that we went to was trauma focused training. And they showed us, I think it was a porcupine, but some kind of prickly, spiky kind of animal. And he was walking along in this environment, his home environment, and a predatory animal came by. And so this animal that's prickly just turned into a ball. And the animal came and sniffed, and for whatever reason couldn't get to the meaty part of this animal. And so it just went along. And then you saw this animal uncurl and go back to, its normal, its other state. And then you saw it, they had to do it in slow motion, but you could see him going like this and shaking.
Mm,
And then after a few moments of shaking, he just walked on like no big deal. And in our discussion, we talked about after we had some kind of a trauma, we usually get that prickly sensation, right?
mm,
And as humans, I don't know, somehow we decided that we need to kind of mute it or, kind of, so you see people wrapping themselves up and holding themselves tightly and not allowing ourselves to kind of shake off all that
yeah.
extra emotion, the adrenaline, the what is it, the other one, cortisol. There's all kinds of chemicals that kind of run through your body because of the fight and flight response, but we hold it in.
Yeah.
And this training was talking about letting it go, like, finding ways to expel it out of our bodies. Otherwise, we get all these other kind of negative symptoms, right?
Yeah.
Ah, I loved that one. That was like, oh, I see you.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's so funny how I feel like when I was younger, like that concept wouldn't have resonated with me whatsoever. But now I'm like, I understand that. And just I'm into energy work as well. I do Reiki
Mhm.
and stuff. And yeah, just like letting the energy flow and go,
Yes,
sometimes what's really needed.
yes, yes. And then my third and final step when I kind of build up work with clients is looking at finding like resources or ways to get the kind of support you need sometimes outside of yourself, right?
Yeah.
And I don't know, that whole asking for help and accepting help when it's offered,
Yeah. Yeah.
we struggle with that. I know as a woman I struggled with that. And I remember watching this woman when I used to go to the gym to work out. I'm coming out of the gym, right? There's double doors, so I'm coming out of the first set of doors and she's coming in, but there was a man who kind of got came in right before her. And he was like he went back to help like open the door for her because she had a kid on this arm, she had like a younger one, she had her gym bag, so she was encumbered. And
Yeah.
he was like, hey, you want me to get that door for you? I got it. I was like, you don't
Yeah.
got
Yeah.
it. But we are, I don't know, socialized, encouraged to always have it.
Yep.
So I just, when I walked into my car, I was like, wow, how many times have I done that? How many times have I said no to help that was offered? Even just to, in a day. How many times have I turned down abundance, right? How many times have I, you know, just missed out on opportunities for people to fill me up at a time when I really needed it and deserved it? And so
Yeah.
I'm constantly trying to be a little more cognizant of that. And so I encourage clients to kind of become a little more open to sometimes people offer help, even if it's just like another thing is I've taught my family when you offer me money, I'm taking it.
Yeah.
I'm not going to play that whole, oh, no, no, no. I'm taking it because that's another, good opportunity for me to just accept abundance as it's offered. And if you don't really want to give it to me, don't offer it.
You know what? That just reminded me of something. My aunt and uncle every year send me a Christmas card and a birthday card with money in it, and it's usually a check. And I never cash it. I just shred it because I'm like, I don't need your money. Stop sending me money. Like that's so sweet, but you guys like don't do that. And they just sent a Christmas card with a check in it, and I was like, I think I'm just gonna shred this. But now that you said that, I was like, you know what? You're right because it is difficult, I think, for women in general. And I've been working through this as well. But like the art of like allowing, like just allowing that energy. It's like how many, like you said, how many times have we not we kind of shun that away, but in the sense it's like we're shunning away that energy from the universe to like receive abundance and money and help
Yep.
and
Yep.
whatever. And if you I just feel like that, me being one of them is like there's people out there that are like, these things just don't happen for me, or I really want this, but it's not happening. And it's like, yeah, but we're not even allowing for like good things to happen and like accept it and be okay with it. So that's yeah, I'm glad that you said that because I'm gonna cash that now.
I love it. Any little thing that can just shift our energy. I love it. Yeah. So those are my three things. I had to make sure, you always have to have notes because otherwise I would go off on a tangent.
Yeah.
Because I have naturally the gift of gab.
Love it.
Um, and so I like this concept of just having time to talk without any um like stress around it. Like I'm wearing really real clothes. And every now and then I have to tell people I'm actually wearing pants.
Yeah.
Because I know the Zoom thing, we don't always dress. But today I was like, I'm gonna come with the idea that as present and open as I can, because I know that's another area of growth is to just be me and that's enough and that there's plenty of other people who can, learn and experience life from my challenges, my strengths, and also the areas in which I'm still like evolving. And so I'm happy to see you and meet you and have you here with us. So thank
Yes.
you.
Yes, me as well. And I'm glad that I joined just because that it did remind me too, that last part that you said. I mean, all of it was so good. But I really enjoyed that last part because it just reminded me of all because I'm working on that and I thought I was doing good, but you just reminded me that I am like blocking some things. So, and
Oh,
that's good for me to know.
I like it. I like it. I like it. Super cool. So what else? So if this sounds like something that you really need, where you're struggling with grief or you're feeling victim to the circumstances and you really want to feel something different, I want to be your coach. And we could work together one-on-one, and I'll take you through the 3 steps and get you from point A to point B in a very individualized way. And I want you to consider that why wait? Because I know in my own grief journey, it took me over a year to finally get help after many people had said, you should talk to someone. And I'm in mental health. I know better, but right, it's that whole concept of, when you know better, you do better. And the idea of when you think you're already okay, you have to wait until some reason something hits you and says, you're not so okay. And it took me a while for that. But I don't want you to have to wait that long. You deserve to feel better now. You deserve to have a fuller life now. And you can have that. You just need a couple of ideas and some support. And so reach out. You can just send me a private message that just says, "Hey, Kim, let's get started." And we'll have a consultation call where we talk through what is your challenge or your problem, where is it that you want to be, and I will, give you some ideas around how I can help you, and you can make a decision about whether or not you want to go further in me being your coach. But this is my way of pitching to you that I'm here for you and you got this. Thanks for listening, and I'll see you next time.